If you guys are interested in learning how to interline your garments, specifically for special occasion wear, then stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome to my sewing room. If you guys are new here, hello, my name is Amanda and I post awesome sewing videos twice weekly. In today's episode of Sewing Basics, I will show you guys how to interline, or sometimes called underline, your garments. Now, this is pretty specific to special occasion garments, which is mostly what I sew, but this also could be transferred over to ready to wear everyday kind of garments. Now, I want to start by saying you want to have obviously your pattern pieces. I've cut squares just because this is a demonstration video. So you want to have your pattern pieces. You want to have them cut out of your face fabric and also out of interlining. And interlining can be a lot of things. Interlining can be the same fabric twice. Interlining can be, like I have here, muslin, and muslin is my interlining of choice because it's cheap and it creates the perfect weight and the perfect backing for most of my fabrics. Most of the fabrics I work with are satins, but I also work with other kinds of fabrics as well. This is a satin, and the underlining that I have chosen for this one is an organdy. Now, organdy is kind of like organza, except it's a little bit beefier. So I chose this one. You could use silk organza, cotton, which it pretty much is the muslin. Some people use quilter's cotton, but I like to use muslin just because it's readily available and I always have it on hand and it's just easy to use. So after you have all your pattern pieces cut out, you want to have a long needle with thread. And I like to use contrasting thread just so when I need to take my basting stitches out, I can actually see them. Now, the first thing that you want to do, I'm going to go ahead and take this sample away and I'm going to do the work on my sample, on my satin sample. The first thing you want to do when you have your pattern pieces cut out is you want to go ahead and give them a quick press. Now, this doesn't have to be a really hard press, but you do want the pieces to be pretty flat so that they're even when you put them together. Now that we have our pattern pieces ironed out, what you want to do is make sure that your face piece is right on top of the underlining and that it's nice and square. Now you want to do this face side up. You don't want to have the underlining on top. I've noticed when I have the underlining on top, sometimes when I flip it around and I look at the face side, there's puckers. So you always want to have your face side on top. Okay, so now that you have that, we have our needle threaded, and I just want to make sure that I'm using a single thread. I don't want to use a double just because I want to make it super easy for me to go ahead and take out. And now that we're ready to start doing the underlining, I'm going to go ahead and bring you in just a little bit closer. Okay, now that I have you in closer, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and pin it. Now I like to kind of place 2 fingers on where I'm pinning and pin in between my fingers, just so I know that the fabric underneath is not moving all over the place. And you just want to go ahead and pin all around. If your fabric is more slippery than the satin that I'm working with, you could go ahead and use more pins. But with this fabric, it's not necessary. And notice that I'm not picking up the fabric. I'm always sliding it and making sure that it's flat on the table when I rotate it. So now that I have everything pinned, I'm going to go ahead and start the underlining process, or the interlining. Interlining, underlining, same thing, okay? So I'm going to start with my needle, and I do not have a knot at the end just because I want to make sure that when I get ready to take this out, I want it to come out easily, no matter which direction I pull it in. Now I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to make sure that I am short of my seam allowance, just because if I don't have to take my basting out, that'll be perfect. Sometimes you can't help it, but 9 times out of 10, you will be able to place your basting within the seam allowance so that you wouldn't even have to take out your basting stitches, unless you really wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and put my needle in, and I'm going to start. I'm going to pull my thread all the way until it's about that long. I mean, however long you feel comfortable with. Okay, I'm going to insert my needle Notice I'm not picking my fabric up. I'm making sure with this hand that my fabric is laying flat. I'm going to go through, and then I'm taking a long stitch. I'm not gonna, it was pretty much a long running stitch. I'm not going to come in right there just because I'm not trying to spend 20 years basting. Okay, so I'm gonna take a big bite, and I'm gonna just kind of take a whole bunch of bites at once. But keep in mind that I am not lifting my fabric. I'm not picking it up. I'm trying to keep it as flat as possible. And I'm just gonna go ahead and pull that through. And I'm gonna just keep going. Once we get to the corner, you wanna pull your needle out, shift it like this. And then I don't wanna just start going like this. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna go ahead and start from here. And I notice when I do that, it reduces the tension on the corner, because sometimes the corner does tend to pucker. And you don't want these stitches to be tight at all. And when you're doing this for a wedding gown or for any kind of special occasion wear, obviously the pattern pieces are a bit larger, so this does take time. And like I mentioned in my how to make a wedding dress video, this is not something that you want to take to the couch and do it while it's on your lap on the couch. You really have to have this flat on the table, or you will see puckering in your fabric. But if you're spending the time underlining your fabric and doing hand sewing and basting, it's obviously because the garment you're making is important to you. So I suggest that you spend the extra time with the hand basting. Okay, now that we're all done, this is what it looks like once the fabric is underlined. Now I know you may be thinking, Amanda, what is the point of spending all this time hand sewing my underlining? Why am I underlining when my gown is going to be lined anyway? Now, the point of underlining is not to act as a lining. The point of underlining is to stable the face fabric that you have. Now, say you have some silk charmeuse, which I actually have a sample here. Beautiful silk charmeuse, but you want to make a wedding gown out of it, a mermaid style wedding gown or a ball gown that has a structured drape. This is not going to do it for you. So what will I do? I'll underline it. I'll either underline it with itself if I want to keep the same fluidity of its drape, or I'll underline it with some organdy or even the muslin. Obviously it's two different sizes. And look how much more stable that is. This will make a better ball gown than just this fabric on its own. Or say that you want to hem a gown, but you don't want the hemming stitches, the catch stitches, to be shown from the face side. Have that underlining. You can fold this up like you would do, and you would do your stitches, and you wouldn't catch your face, you would only catch your underlining. And then when you turn your fabric to the right side, you wouldn't see any of the hemming stitches from the face. And that, I think that's really important. Another reason I love to use underlining is when I'm having darts and notches and things like that where I need to indicate, I kind of feel if I'm, using a silk fabric or even using a polyester, I feel uncomfortable using one of those disappearing ink pens and marking on my face fabric. So when I have the underlining, I mark all of my markings onto the underlining. Also, if you want to add boning to a gown, but you don't want your boning channels to be shown on the face, and you don't want your lining, and you don't want to see your boning from your lining, interlining is a good way to go, because you can either hand sew or you can machine sew down your boning to your interlining, and you would have the structure of the interlining, and you would also not see it from the face. So there's so many ways, there's so many benefits to using interlining. Another reason is for your seam allowances. If you want your seam allowances to lay flat, you can sew your seam allowances down to your interlining. Now I know I'm probably sounding like I'm trying to sell you on the world of interlining, but I just want to let you guys know how important interlining is, especially when it comes to special occasion gowns. If you want to level up your special occasion sewing, for your prom dresses, for your wedding gowns, for your flower girl dresses, any kind of evening gown, then interlining is a must. Okay, so I just wanted to show you some before and afters of the underlining. This one is the crepe de chine backed with the muslin, and this is the piece without it. This has a more structured, stiffer drape versus this is just the regular crepe de chine. So it's all about the project that you're using it for. Obviously, if you're using it for a project that requires something to be more fluid and flowy, then you would use it as is. If you want to do something more structured, like maybe, you know, a prom dress, well, I wouldn't make a prom dress out of this, but a homecoming dress, a graduation dress, anything that's kind of more on the special occasion side, then you would underline it. Below here is the satin. This is the satin that we did in this video. It's underlined with organdy, and you see it compared to the same satin that's not underlined at all. So like I said, it's with the project, whatever the project is that you're doing, that determines whether you underline it or not. You can even underline it with itself, and that will help keep the fluidity and the drape that it already has, but give it a little bit more structure if that's what you're needing. Okay, so I hope this quick video was helpful. If you have any questions or you just want to say hi, leave it down in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and you want me to keep creating more sewing basics video like this weekly. If you have not subscribed yet, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so YouTube can alert you every time that I do post. And as always, I'll see you in my next